The chance to shape your future is here. Learn and connect with exciting new opportunities. Are you ready for the next step?
Good morning, and a very warm welcome to this session on the applications of blockchain. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Avril Lewis, and I'm the Managing Director of Technology Connected, and Technology Connected also includes Blockchain Connected. What I'd like to do with you this morning is to just basically share with you our agenda so that we can see exactly what it is that we will be covering today, and also to be able to introduce to you my very esteemed guests, who I'm delighted being able to join us this morning. So I do hope that you're able to see my screen. And I will firstly just run through what it is that I'd like to cover this morning. So we will be running a session where I will give a brief introduction to Technology Connected and Blockchain Connected, along then with passing over to my guests, who are Nicola McNeely, who is the head of the technology sector and partner for Harrison Clark Rickaby's solicitors, and also a member of my Blockchain Connected Council. We also have with us this morning Sharon Henley, who is product officer for CoinCover, and Astrid Ale from the Knowledge Transfer Network. So delighted to have everybody with us this morning. I'm just going to stop sharing a moment, and I will come back to you in 1 second, as it seems that my Emerging Tech Fest presentation isn't running to plan. So I do apologise. That's the wonderful thing about Emerging Tech Fest. Okay. So I do hope that you can all see my screen. I'm sorry, we seem to be having a 1 second. I will get there. I do apologise. So, a very warm welcome to Blockchain Connected, and just an understanding of who we are and what we do. So Blockchain Connected is part of Technology Connected. And what we're looking to do is to be able to create a community in Wales where we look to unify, champion and promote the Welsh blockchain connected, the Welsh blockchain industry in Wales, promoting that across the world so that we're looking at how we can build a better future for the industry in Wales. And that's our vision. And here what we do is we connect people, we connect technologies, and we connect industries. So we are the go-to organisation for news, views and insight on the blockchain connected industry in Wales. And I'm delighted that we have a very, very established and esteemed panel of experts that forms our Blockchain Connected Council. We are very fortunate that we have a complete tripartite organisation that covers both the private sector along with the public sector, linking industry and academia, and also some of the key ecosystem members, for example, the Development Bank of Wales. So it's a very, very quick introduction to Blockchain Connected. I am here. We have an exhibition booth. So by all means, come and join us at the virtual exhibition booth through the next 3 days to find out more about Blockchain Connected in Wales. It is my great pleasure this morning to be able to introduce to you Nicola McNeely, who is the head of the technology sector and partner for Harrison Clark Rickaby's. and also one of our esteemed members of the Blockchain Connected Council. And Nicola very kindly is going to give us an overview of what is a blockchain. So I'm going to stop sharing, and a very warm welcome, Nicola McNeely.
Good morning, Avril, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about blockchain this morning, and why am I qualified to talk to you about blockchain? Well, I've been working in the blockchain ecosystem for about 8 years now, particularly around digital assets and cryptocurrencies. So I've worked with companies globally and all across the entire blockchain ecosystem, from wallet service providers, blockchain economies, businesses in the disruptive blockchain field, who are the disruptors, also large corporates adopting blockchain, cold storage providers, validators, etc. So I worked across the whole piece, and Avril asked me to join this morning just to talk to you a little bit about what actually blockchain is and some of the interesting things in the market. So let's have a little look at blockchain. So there are lots of myths around what blockchain actually is, but as with lots of new technologies, the amazing thing about blockchain is it's a combination of two very long, well-established technologies. So you have cryptography, which is your cryptographic key. So think about that from the perspective of locks and unlocks, and then distributed ledger technology, or DLT, which is where you have a large distributed network of computers, or we call them nodes, that operate the blockchain. And marrying those two together is what makes blockchain. So those two long established technologies make blockchain. So blockchain is tamper-proof, and it's a timestamp database operating on a distributed network of computers, we call them nodes, which keep track of transactions, basically. So it allows you to validate a transaction and to update a record in a synchronized, transparent, and decentralized way, peer-to-peer. The amazing thing about that is it means that you don't need to rely on third-party processors, merchant acquirers, payment authorizers, etc. The process is used to validate and verify transactions and add those transactions to the blockchain across the network. So each block is linked to the previous and the next block, which makes the chain, and it can't be changed, tampered with, or deleted. We call that immutability. So how could blockchain transform the way we transact and interact? This is where it gets really exciting, because this is how this technology could be used to actually change the way we operate our lives day to day. And there's a few key themes here. One is peer-to-peer payments. So payment systems, blockchain is perfect for, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that, and so will some of our other speakers, especially myself and Sharon today. Banking the unbanked and giving identity to the socially excluded. This is really important, particularly in markets like India and China, Philippines and the like, where you don't necessarily have 5G, 4G broadband coverage, and not everyone will have access to personal identity documents. People might have been socially displaced through civil war, but blockchain technology can actually give people access to the banking system and give them an identity so long as they have a mobile phone. It's incredible, and sometimes you don't even need to physically have a mobile signal to be able to make a blockchain payment. And then tokenization, so digital currency. So this is effectively meaning that you, rather than using fiat currency, which is the money that sits in your pocket, you can use alternative assets. So you could tokenize different assets and create digital currencies. I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a moment. And then crypto assets, so asset class diversification. And what I mean by this is, you may have always wanted to own a piece of the Mona Lisa, but you wouldn't be able to afford to do it. Well, blockchain technology allows you to own a fractional part of that, and to divest it. So to sell it or transfer that asset, or you're sharing that asset using blockchain technology. So it's very exciting, really, and it opens up new classes to institutional and retail investors. As an investor, why should I not have shares in cryptocurrencies and digital assets in my portfolio? I think this technology should be accessible to everyone. So what's the different types of cryptocurrency? I'm going to talk to you about a few different ones, because in this ecosystem, we talk an awful lot about acronyms and jargon. And I'm going to try and debunk a little bit of it for you now. So let's talk about payment currencies. So payment currencies are used to pay for goods and or services. So you can pay bills, you can cash out digital currencies to local fiat, like US dollars. So for example, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash. Blockchain economies, these take the functionality of the blockchain further than payments, and they allow you to create decentralized apps, or we call them dApps, on their platform. So Ethereum Classic, EOS, Neo. These allow you to enter into smart contracts, for example, to automate processes that sit around a transfer of value. Then we have privacy coins. So these are where only the sender and the receiver know the number of coins that are transacted. And also the balance of a privacy coin wallet address is only known to the wallet owner. So like Zcash and Monero, for example. Utility tokens, think of your green card stamps. That'll bring back a few memories to a few people. If you don't know what they are, then clearly you weren't born in the 60s, 70s. Tokens are used for blockchain-based products or services. They're normally ERC20 or 21 similar tokens, and they use the tokens to pay for computing power or utility. So it's basically like a voucher, it's no different to that. So utility tokens don't tend to fluctuate in value, they tend to have a fixed value. And then you have stable coins. So stable coins are really interesting emergence in this technology, and they can be used for payment and remittance. Now, digital currencies are pegged to a stable asset in this situation. So the euro or sterling or US dollar, or they might be pegged to a basket of currencies to hedge any volatility. Or they could be pegged to gold or a commodity or another crypto like DAI. For example, Paxos, USD coin, Tether. It's a cheaper, faster and better and more secure alternative to cash or payment currencies, because there's no foreign exchange volatility, there's no liquidity issues, and they're scalable. So stable coins are, we would say, one of the future evolutions of this technology. So why should you have blockchain on your agenda? And why should it be on your radar? Because more people worldwide are using blockchain to make payments, particularly micropayments, and the COVID-19 pandemic has definitely accelerated the growth of payments and electronic payments. There is potential to cut costs and speed up transactions and offer a diverse solution to consumers to make payments. Open banking and payment processes are evolving, so the market's changing very rapidly, and people are willing to adopt new technology more now than ever before. The adoption of wearables and the use of biometrics is increasing, so people are using retinal scans, fingerprints, handprints. They're bumping their watches and their mobile phones. This has just become part of our everyday life. Subscription models are emerging. So by way of example, if you have an account with iTunes, you may back up your photos and your assets from your mobile phone to the cloud for a couple of pounds a month. And then they're basically small micropayments that no one ever notices, but those sorts of payments are perfect for blockchain technology. Digital consent and authentication is increasing, so making payments using that digital consent is more and more common. Cashless and cardless, is that possible? Now, we've debated this a number of times, but I believe it is possible with blockchain technology and with the use of contactless payments and tokenization. And higher transaction volumes and micropayments are enabled with blockchain technology. And what I mean by this is it's much, much cheaper to transfer money using blockchain than traditional payment services using retail merchants, merchant acquirers and the like, because the change of hands fees are fractions of the normal costs. So blockchain's great because you pay much less to transfer the money, but you're transferring smaller monies. So that's what we mean by micropayments. So the change of hands fees are lower, but they're more voluminous. So actually it's still profitable business. So that's me. I'm going to pass you now to Avril.
Thank you very much indeed, Nicola. That's extremely informative, and thank you for a very quick run through of what I know is a particularly complex and interesting subject. What I would like to do before I pass on to my next guest, Sharon Henley, just to let everybody that is watching and listening this morning that we do have a question and answer session that we will be coming to towards the end of the session. So please, by all means, post your questions and answers. And if I could ask that you kindly just put a little indication at the beginning of your question to whom you would like to address that question, then I can manage that a bit later in the session. So without any further ado, I'm going to now introduce to you Sharon Henley. Let me just bring up my introduction to Sharon. And I'm delighted that Sharon also is a member of our Blockchain Connected Council. And she is also in her day job, our Chief Product Officer for CoinCover. A very warm welcome to you, Sharon, and good morning.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. As Avril said, I'm Sharon Henley, Chief Product Officer for CoinCover, and part of the Blockchain Connected Council, which I'm thrilled to be part of. Just like Nicola, I've been in this space about 7 years now, and I kind of cut my teeth in it while working at the Royal Mint, which is an organization I'm sure many of you are aware of. It's down the road, and they strike those little metal coins. And a number of years ago, we were tasked with the project of thinking about what the future of money looks like. And that there were lots of options: digital cash, things like Apple Pay, alternatives to credit cards. And we stumbled across Bitcoin, and we thought, wow, this is some really interesting technology here, but Bitcoin as a currency wouldn't really work. It's very volatile. So, it couldn't be used as a currency because you just couldn't pay, let's say, $5 for a loaf of bread one day and then 53p for a loaf of bread the next day. So we then thought, well, actually, we can solve that volatility because we can essentially peg it to a basket of gold. So as Nicola was talking about earlier, you can have stable coins that are essentially tied to some underlying asset. So back in 2016, we essentially digitized gold. We put it on a blockchain. We enabled peer-to-peer payments and remittances and launched what was the world's first gold-backed stablecoin, Royal Mint Gold. Now, subsequently to then, I got really super excited about blockchain. As you can see, I'm a product officer, so that means that I really care about the applications of blockchain and not just the hype of the technology, but what problems it's solving, what you can do with it, what benefits it has to society, individuals, businesses. And so that's really what I'm here to talk to you about today is really the practical applications. And I just want to also kind of let you know that this is really just a taster. So the Technology Council is here. We're always open to answering your questions. If you've got, let's say, a process in-house, or you've got a project idea, you're looking to see whether you think blockchain would be a good fit or not, then we're always here to answer those types of questions. So again, this is really just a taster so that you can have an idea of how blockchain has evolved, what are some of the current applications in place and with live projects, but also what are some of the applications that are currently being built and we hope to see a lot more of in the near future. So blockchain is actually being adopted across a lot of different industries. Now, fintech is definitely, did the first leader, took advantage right at the beginning. And we hear an awful lot about how blockchain is used in the fintech, banking, payments, remittances spaces. But actually, it's very, very useful in logistics, telecommunications, agriculture, healthcare, and government, and so many other industries. And really what they all have in common is that it's about data, it's about speed of sharing data, it's about trust and transparency of the underlying data, traceability, trustworthiness. That's what all of these industries have in common. That's why they're all utilizing blockchain. So let's talk about exactly what that means in terms of truth and trust. So for example, blockchain can easily answer the question of, are you who you say you are? Do you own the house that you're selling to me? Who really owns this piece of music? Am I buying real Welsh lamb? Is this battery genuine? Has this product been recycled? Is this medicine authentic? And are her education certificates genuine? So we probably take these sorts of things for granted, but there's an awful lot in most of these spaces. There's an awful lot of intermediaries that come in between to help us understand the truth and trust in this space. So if you think about one of the extreme examples of here are, do you own the house you're selling to me? So if any of you have had the luxury of buying your own house, you know that you put it up for sale. You also have to essentially go through a solicitor. You have to find deeds. You have to do conveyancing. You have to go into escrow. So there's lots of processes in the middle to make sure that there is a trusted and transparent interaction between a buyer and seller. If that process were to be disintermediated and put onto a blockchain, I'm sure you can imagine that we could all save an awful lot of time, hassle, and money by enabling blockchain-based real estate transactions. And that goes for everything that you can see here. Disintermediating, taking out middlemen, improving trust, speed, transparency is really what blockchain is about. So as I said, it's about a combination of 5 key elements solving some key problems. And I'm going to give some examples very shortly, so I'm not going to go into these in any detail, but it is all about transparency, looking at the data, seeing transactions happening. It's about trust, knowing that the person that you're dealing with is reputable, knowing that the asset that you're buying does belong to the seller, knowing that you will be granted the deeds. It's about security, making transactions safe. So just like as a bank, you'll take your money to the bank, you'll expect all of your assets online, be them music recordings, be them houses, be them cars, gold, any of your securities, you want to make sure that all of your assets are safe. The efficiency is, again, disintermediating, means that those transactions can essentially happen in real time. So it literally is almost instantaneous to buy, sell, swap assets with each other. And then the one of the key things about the blockchain is the traceability. Now, all transactions are publicly viewable on a blockchain. That's not to say that they disclose or share personally identifiable information. Not at all. I think a lot of people get worried and think about traceability means that everything about you is going to be shared. That's not the truth. traceability is basically the traceability of the actual transaction. So I sell my house to James, who sells it on to Anthony, who sells it on to Fred. The traceability just shows the transactions of what went from whom to who. So that's what traceability means. So let's give you a couple of examples. And we start off in the financial services space, because this is really where 5, 6, 7 years ago that blockchain really started to come into its own. And this is where we saw essentially all of the initial applications emerge. And today there are just so many more built on this layer of technology. So if you think about how it used to be done, or actually not necessarily used to be done, it's still, probably 99% of payments are still done this way. You're a customer, you have money in your bank, and you basically want to buy a service or a product for somebody, and you essentially need to provide them a payment. And usually what happens is you use a Visa, MasterCard, or Apple Pay, or PayPal. You enter in your details. The money is taken from your bank, it's put into their bank, and the intermediaries essentially will take a haircut and charge fees. And in general, while we, as a consumer, usually see this as instantaneous, it is actually, for the person receiving the money, it's sometimes slow, there's restrictions, and it's also a very closed loop system. It's not actually that easy to, go and launch a Visa, MasterCard, or a payment gateway. Now, if you were to introduce a blockchain-based currency, such as Bitcoin, we basically disintermediate. So that's a word that's often used when we're talking about blockchain applications. So here it's an open, peer-to-peer, secure, instant, and inexpensive transaction. You as a customer have what we would call a digital wallet. Within that digital wallet, you have digital coins, digital currency. Bitcoin is just one example, and there are hundreds of different types of coins that you can have. And you basically send your coins to the wallet of the person that you're going to pay, identify how much you want to send, click the button, it's gone, and it's, as I mentioned, instantaneous. The provider also has their own wallet, and the minute it's released, that's it, they've received it. There are no middlemen, nobody disintermediating this. So again, secure, instant, inexpensive. Now, another example that is fastly growing is identity verification. Now, this is kind of really neat. I really love this kind of application because it's a really smart way of proving your identity without disclosing personal data. And this is actually this is really cool because it facilitates safe transfer of and sharing of data and information. And I'll give you an example here. So this lady is at the bar. And if you're lucky to be young enough, then the barman essentially is going to ask you for your ID. So basically what happens is the lady in the bar will say, hey, I want a drink. The barman will say, how old are you? She'll say, I'm 18. He'll say, prove it. And what does she do? She whips out her driver's license, right? Because that is the thing that we use primarily in the UK to prove that we're of age. So she hands over a driver's license, and it includes her full name, her date of birth, her place of birth, her nationality, her address, her signature, driving entitlement, and medical conditions. 9 pieces of personal information that she's provided beyond the decision-making criteria, because the barman, he doesn't need to know all these details about her. All he needs to know is yes or no, is she or is she not 18 or above? That's all he needs to know, but he's now left with 9 pieces of personal information about her. On a blockchain, we can essentially solve for that. So basically what happens is the lady at the bar would download an ID app, and there's a number of different ID apps out there. she would then, on her own phone, she would personally identify her own details. So using like a KYC, which stands for Know Your Customer, there are third-party endorsers of information like this. So she would upload her passport or a driver's license. The third party would identify, yes, her name, her email, her address, it's all legitimate. And that would be her identity on her phone. Now, the really cool piece about this is that identity is then locked up into basically a QR code. So it's computer readable. You can't read it, obviously, and clearly it's not giving away any identifiable information. So then what happens, she goes to the barman asks her ID, and instead of handing over her driver's license, she basically pulls up this QR code, the barman scans it, and all it tells the barman is yes or no, is she 18, is she not 18? She hasn't disclosed any personal information, but she gets her drink and the barman's happy that he's not serving underage customers. And this type of ID verification can be used for lots of different things. So, you know, maybe getting benefits or a driver's license or going to the bank. You know, your ID is used in so many different places, and the ability to provide an ID without displaying all of your personal information is a really, really great application of a blockchain application. Now let's talk about Welsh Lamb, shall we? So I also like this example. It's about supply chain provenance, and it's a system to certify the supply of Welsh lamb through the phases of farming, processing, transportation, and sales. And what it does for us is it increases quality control and ensures only authorized sellers and buyers, and ensures basically a more credible reputation for Welsh lamb. So how does that work? Of course, it's all processed on blockchain. So a little statistic here is 95% of Welsh lamb is exported. But, you know, how does somebody in Colorado, let's say, know that the lamb they're eating really is Welsh lamb? And that's how supply chain provenance on a blockchain comes into play. Basically, on a blockchain, every transaction or every part of a process, every part of a control chain on a blockchain is attested. And attestations, what that means is basically it's a fancy word of saying of adding facts to a transaction. So when a blockchain for provenance has attestation, it's basically providing proof of who raised it. So which farm did it come from, for example? How was it raised? You know, was it a battery farm or something else? What was it fed? Is it organic, or, you know, was it fed corn? Who processed it? So, you know, was it processed in Wales or outside of Wales? And then obviously for the very end consumer, who sold it? So the Welsh lamb can be traced all the way through the chain. Now, actually, this on a little bit of a sidebar, it's not just about, you know, the quality or the authenticity of the lamb. There's been a very solid case study in the US of how provenance on blockchain actually saved lives. So there was an example of Walmart. Walmart is the largest, if not the second largest after Amazon, store in the US. They sell many different things, including lettuce. Now, Amazon works with farmers all over the US, hundreds of farmers, probably thousands. They distribute lettuces to their stores, which I think totals about 30,000 across the US. So they've got a massive you know, supply chain logistics problem to deal with all day long. Now, one day somebody got very sick eating some lettuce that was contaminated. In the traditional days, when Walmart wasn't tracing their goods on a blockchain, it would have actually taken them, they anticipate, about a week to identify the source of that lettuce, to then identify what stores it's in, to identify essentially which lettuces to pull off the shelves. With the blockchain, because you're able to track and trace product all across the entire chain, they were able to understand where the lettuces come from, which stores they were in, which shelves they were on, and they were actually able to pull all of the bad lettuce or the contaminated lettuce off the shelf within a matter of 3 hours. So that really is like impressive. It's not just about proving that it's real, it's actually about solving problems should something go wrong. So again, another very exciting practical use of provenance and blockchain. So again, as I said, this is just a taster. Blockchain, though, is not going to save the world, right? It's not the be all and end all. We certainly wouldn't sit here even at the Blockchain Technology Council and say, yes, everybody should dash off and go install blockchain. You should install it if you have a real use case, because it's not easy and it does take time. Any new process that you add to a business, it's going to cost time, money, learning, transition, all that good stuff. But blockchain, as hopefully I've explained and Nicola's also touched upon, it has some very real life benefits that we've mentioned: security, efficiency, traceability, transparency, and trust. So I do hope that many of you start to think about how this can be used in your business, because certainly across the country, there are many, many others out there that are really looking at their businesses and how blockchain can help their businesses. So for example, just so that you can compare and contrast, there are significant investments planned for 2021. 40% will invest in blockchain this coming year. But of course, we also have challenges. Critical to address the challenges around data, looking at centralized processes, asset value and transfer. So these, again, some of the challenges that blockchain can address. So again, I really hope that this is sort of like whet your appetite, helps you to understand lots of different applications, and we're always here to answer very specific questions if you have a case study that you think might be suitable for blockchain. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy Astrid's next talk.
Thank you very much indeed, Sharon. Fascinating, really interesting. And I've got some very interesting questions which are coming through, which we'll look to address at the question and answer session at the end of our presentations. So it is my great pleasure to be able to introduce to you now Astrid Ale from the Knowledge Transfer Network. Good morning, Astrid, and a very warm welcome.
Good morning. I trust you see my slide well? Yeah. So yes, hello everyone. A pleasure to join the event and this session. My name is Astrid and I am the FinTech and Blockchain Knowledge Transfer Manager at KTN. And I will give you an overview of how we can help organizations like yourselves succeed in their innovation journey, a few tips when it comes to funding and finding partners, and we'll also illustrate our work by giving you a few examples of blockchain projects that we have supported in the last few months. So KTN exists to connect innovators with new partners and new opportunities beyond their existing thinking, accelerating ambitious ideas into real-world solutions. So we connect people and businesses to accelerate innovation, and that often includes helping businesses identify problems, helping them identify potential partners, and advise on relevant funding routes. So I think businesses often first hear about KTN by attending one of our events like today. So we do organize large events like this one, but we also create and run other types of events such as regular meetups, exclusive speed networking events, and funding briefing events, for example. And what we specialize is creating and supporting cross-sectoral collaborations. So K-Chain represents all sectors of the economy. So I am part of the digital and creative team and work mostly with the financial and professional services sectors. But I have colleagues who work with the manufacturing, agriculture, health sectors, etc. And blockchain, you know, as Sharon was explaining, is a perfect example of how technology developed in one sector, in this instance, the financial sector, can then be utilized in other sectors of the industry. And that's where we come in and try to enable that connection. So we work in close partnerships with Innovate UK. So the good news is that most of our services are free. So if you are an innovative business based in the UK and looking for advice on funding and partnerships, then do get in touch with us and we'll try to help you. We are measured on the outcomes that we help generate. So your success is our success. So on funding, so let me first give you a sort of general overview of the UK ecosystem. So you have, of course, regional support provided by the growth hubs and the devolved authorities. So in our case, the Welsh government. And then at national level, you will find grant funding opportunities under the UKRI banner, both for business-led projects through Innovate UK and university-led projects through the research councils. And then at European level, UK-based researchers and businesses are still able to take part in the Horizon Europe program in the same way as before. However, they're excluded from a new European Innovation Council fund, which is designed to support startup and university spin-off firms. UK businesses can still apply to the Eurostars program, so you might have heard of the Eureka network and the Newton Fund opportunities. So still opportunities with Europe. And then at sector level, there are opportunities with SBRI, charities, so depending on your sector. And for the blockchain sector, there are grant opportunities through various protocol foundations, such as the Ethereum Foundation, for example. So in terms of Innovate UK current programs, we can map them out into those 5 categories. But I think what's important first is to remember that Innovate UK is an investor. It's a public investor. So they need to prioritize the areas of focus by asking themselves, what are the global opportunities? What are the unique strengths that the UK brings to this opportunity? Is the timing right? And why is public investment required? So all Innovate UK opportunities are run through a competitive application process. So when applying for Innovate UK grants, think of those questions. Does your project fit with Innovate UK and the government's objectives and priorities? And then frame your application around those objectives. So in terms of the current programs, we have those that are challenge-led and referenced as Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. They fall under 4 themes: clean growth, aging society, future of mobility, and artificial intelligence and data economy. And then we have the smart grants, which are open to any innovative product, process, or service. They must be led by a UK registered business that can be of any size, or a research and technology organization, but they must include at least 1 SME. The R&D activity must happen in the UK, as well as the exploitation of the project results. So there is at the moment 1 smart grant round open, and the deadline is the 26th of May at 11 AM. Innovate UK also offers innovation loans and have run some pilots of investment accelerator that we're providing both public and private funding. And you, of course, also have the knowledge transfer partnership, which allows revenue-generated businesses to hire a postgraduate student to work on a specific project for 1 to 2 years. The cost for the company is on average around 30K, while the perceived economic value is 100K. So it's a great program to get specific skills such as blockchain acquired within your company through a postgrad student. And then finally, Innovate UK also runs programs on behalf of other government departments, and typically those will be themes. So I've tried to give you a very quick and simple overview of the possible routes for funding, but please do get in touch. This is what we are here for. If you are looking to access those funding opportunities, we also have a bunch of useful resources we can send you as well. Now, in terms of collaboration, let me give you a few tips on how to build a team. So yes, how do you generate new collaborations? So I think first, improve your network by finding new contacts. We often say at KTN that knowledge transfer is a body contact sport, although we should perhaps now say that it's a socially distanced contact sport. But then, nevertheless, do participate in networking events like this one. So you're doing great. Give pitch presentation, schedule one-on-one meetings. You can do this through the conference website. You can schedule one-on-one meetings, even though it's virtual at the moment. And be proactive in contacting partners, and also consider partners across your value chain. So not necessarily the ones who come first to mind. And then generating success, going from turning contacts into successful collaborations can take time. So with new contacts, probably to build confidence, maybe start with a small project rather than trying to sell a larger project. And also be aware of who you're talking to. So adjust your pitch to your audience. So remember that, for example, industry and academia have different motivating factors. Industry look at profits, academia look at publication. They have different timescales, ways of working. And the same apply if you're talking to an investor or a large corporate firm. They will have different motives. And then choose your partners. Don't be afraid to choose your partners. Work with the ones that are responsive and preferably successful. So you can access the past competition winners on the Gateway to Research website and the Gov.uk website. And also on the Borhurst website, you have access to the businesses that have secured private investment. And then join our networks too. That's a great way to improve your network and find new contacts. So here is the networks that are run by the digital and creative team at KTN. So R&D AI for Services network, but we also have a very established immersive technologies network called Immerse UK, a UK 5G network, and we organize regular digital business meetup. We also launched a safety tech innovation network recently, and also have an academic startup accelerator program called Cyber ASAP. And also I encourage you to go on our website and look at the other networks, depending on your sector of activity. And again, that is where it's most valuable to arrange a one-on-one meeting with us so we can discuss and point you in the right direction. So just wanted to finish my presentation by giving you examples of blockchain projects that we have helped in recent months. So I met Sally, founder and CEO of Regulation, at a 3-day residential innovation lab that we ran in 2019 as part of the AI for Services network activities. And we helped Sally refine her proposal, find collaborative partners, and be successful in her application. And then we also connected Sally to various top legal firms in the UK through a speed networking event that she then was able to involve those firms within her project. So Sally and her team are developing a privacy preserving data access network for regulated sectors, which enables data holders to collaborate and extract aggregated learning, control permitted access, and map and learn from each other data without compromising privacy and confidentiality. So you got it. This is obviously using blockchain technology. It's a large consortium project. The funded value is 800K. It is 50-50 funding. So Innovate UK is covering 50% of the cost, and businesses are covering the remaining 50. And it was funded through the Next Generation Services Challenge Fund. Then we also helped LexBlock with their smart grant application. So here a value of 170K for one business, one SME. And here it's a blockchain-enabled solution for music creators and songwriters to reduce the cost of collection of royalties arising from the digital exploitation of song, particularly streaming, and also improve the speed of collection, transparency, and protection of the underlying intellectual property. So here blockchain technology helps to immutably record ownership of the IP in the public domain and create an audit trail to deal with the complexity and huge volume of micro royalty transactions that you find in digital and in streaming especially. And then my final case study, we helped Daniel, founder of Recap, to secure funding and connect to large accountancy firm interested in the solution. So it's a cryptocurrency accounting solution that enables accountants, consumers, and businesses to track, analyze, and report on their cryptocurrency finances and provide clarity on their tax position. It was again funded by the Next Generation Services Challenge Fund, but that's not to say that the only opportunities lie either in SMART or the Next Generation Services Challenge Program, who is now closing, so there's no more competition within that program. There are many other possibilities to access funding, and I'll be really happy to help you if that's a route that you want to take. And then just wanted to mention that we have some newsletters that you can subscribe to keep up to date to events, etc. So do look on our website. That's the best way to do so. And then here are my contact details.
Thank you very much indeed, Astrid. If you'd like to stop sharing, we'll bring all our panelists back. If I could ask my panelists to unmute themselves and show their faces, that would be super. Thank you very much indeed. We've had some questions come through while the presentations have been taking place. So what I'd like to do is, first of all, thank you all very much indeed for your presentations. And I'm going to look at the questions which have come through. What I might do is just throw the question out, and if you'd like to raise your hand to ask it, to answer it, I will come to you. So I think, first of all, and I think Sharon sort of alluded to this in her Welsh lamb, was with regards to how do you see blockchain working in more informal agricultural markets, you know, particularly, for example, in developing economies. Sharon, would you like to answer that for us? You'll need to unmute yourself.
Phrase of the year as
Yes.
it rolls into 21. Okay, sorry. so I'm not an agriculture expert, but I absolutely have friends that are doing this in many developing countries, especially Africa, and they're using blockchain to basically monitor, track and trace things like coffee beans. And again, they're using it to disintermediate so that coffee bean farmers can actually work directly with coffee shops around the world and make sure that their beans are transferred to the buyers, but also more importantly that the actual sum of money that the buyers make is also sent back to the producers. So they use kind of like blockchains both ways. So one is to watch the flows of the actual process and the beans, but also so that there is traceability of exactly how much was paid for those beans, because it's also a bit for the farmers in developing countries, it's a bit of a black box. They basically give their beans to somebody and it goes through a whole bunch of processes and intermediaries, and somebody at the coffee shop obviously pays, well, we do, we pay, you know, a good healthy sum of money for coffee. The farmers never see that. So there's a lot of businesses out there looking to disintermediate like that, but it's not just about coffee. I also know somebody, because I'm a partial alcoholic, that is looking at wine on blockchain. So they're actually essentially, they're taking the grapes, they're putting the grapes on blockchain, they're looking at the the vintage, they're looking at the bottles. So like there could be a really great vintage one year, it's bottled up, people store the bottles, and then they are apparently worth hundreds of dollars 10 years down the line. How do you know that that bottle of wine really is the bottle of wine that you're expecting it to be? Again, tied in with things like QR codes or RFID technology, blockchain is able to help you understand that yes, that's a a legitimate wine. And again, there's a lot of developing countries such as South Africa that develop wine, and it's also about getting the money back to the farmers. But if somebody wants more information, I can point you to, I actually have a whole bunch of friends that are in this space. I'm not the expert, but those are the sorts of things that it's about: the traceability, transparency, making sure everybody in the pipeline is actually getting value for money or getting, recognized for their part of the production.
Thank you very much indeed. Just very conscious of time. So if I could ask, if I'm going to ask the question, if we could try and keep our answers a little shorter so that we can actually get through quite a few of these really interesting questions. Nicola, I'm going to come to you next, because I know as head of technology for your firm, just want to hear, I'm just going to have to slip back up again. I think this is particularly interesting. Do you think quantum cryptography will impact the blockchain before blockchain's widely accepted?
Great question, and this comes up a lot of time in conferences with Uber computing geeks. So thank you for raising it. What I would say is a no. I think that quantum computing is a red herring. IBM have spent billions of dollars trying to solve the quantum computing issue, and I think we're at least 10 years off. Perhaps never solving the quantum computing issue. So no, I don't think it will get market adoption before blockchain technology, because we've got 10 years steer on quantum computing already. So I think no, but that's just my view. I could.
Okay. Thank you for that. Astrid, could I come to you on this one, particularly working between KTN and Innovate UK and looking at industrial challenges? Are there any serious global open platform movements encouraging public access blockchain?
I'm not sure I understand completely the question.
Oh, okay. I'll swap to Nicola, because Nicola has got her hand raised for that one.
Yeah, basically the origins of blockchain technology, Bitcoin is the most perfect example of a public blockchain, and then Ethereum's the same. So they're very different to the private permission blockchains which you might have in payment services like banks and financial services. So I would say they're probably the biggest movements, and you probably get the most evangelical followers of Bitcoin and Ethereum in those movements. So yeah, they would be the most public examples.
Okay. Can I follow on from that, Nicola? Because there is a question here. Blockchain's also used in Bitcoin, and miners make a lot of money and also lose it because of it. Is this true? I'm sure there's a view on that.
It is. I'm not going to go into lots of detail because I could spend hours talking about proof of stake and proof of work and how you make money using blockchain and how the validators and miners make money. It's not for the faint-hearted, but if you're good at it and you know what you're doing, then you can make money, but you can also lose a lot of money because it takes a lot of computing power and energy to actually mine. So that's why Ethereum, for example, have tried to move to proof of stake rather than proof of work. But if you're interested in that, there's a lot of materials around proof of stake and proof of work. So yeah, miners can make a lot of money, but they can also lose money too.
Thank you. Just picking up on losing things, and there's a question here, it's relating to Sharon's presentation, and I think it was with regards to the lady at the bar with the phone. There's an interesting question here. It says, Sharon, what happens if your mobile phone is stolen or you lose it?
So that's a very broad question. I'm assuming that you are talking about the ID application. So basically, I think it's just really the same as any other application that we have on our phone. You essentially just have to reinstall your phone. Most of us have like an Android or a iOS Apple phone. If you're smart, you back it up, you get the new phone, and you essentially have to download it. But I mean, you've got passwords on your app as well. So you know, it's not like just the QR codes on the phone. You do have to enter the phone, pull up the app, enter in your password. It's not just, you know, if somebody found your phone, it's free access. And then the app again is downloadable. All of the information, like the QR codes, are stored up in the cloud. So it's just the same, I think, as any app. If you lose your phone, it's quite frankly a great big headache, but it's primarily retrievable.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. It's amazing how quickly time has flown. What I would like to do is first and foremost thank all of my guests. So a huge big thank you to Nicola McNeely, Sharon Henley, and to Astrid Dale for joining us this morning and for your very valuable contributions. Very much appreciated. Obviously sparked great deal of interest in blockchain. So just for the audience to understand, Blockchain Connected does have a virtual booth. So by all means, come along and have a chat with us there. And, you know, we are here. Blockchain Connected is about building that community and looking at how we can accelerate the connections, the networks, and looking at where we can create centres of expertise in Wales for this particular technology. So without any furthermore, I would like to say a huge thank you to you all for listening. Please do enjoy the rest of the Emerging Tech Fest, and hopefully you will make interesting contacts and you may be wanting to contact with us again in the future. Thank you very much indeed, everybody.
Thank you for joining the Emerging Tech Fest. Join us again on our virtual live sessions or watch us on playback anytime, anywhere.